Hey everyone, welcome back to my Autism My Voice. For this episode, I wanted to talk about college autism. Now, college was definitely one of the more challenging experiences of my life, but I also think it was one of the more rewarding because I realized what I wanted to do ultimately with the rest of my life in regards to focusing on having a marketing background, but also becoming a public speaker to self advocate and talk about overcoming obstacles. And um, I think going into college, I applied to countless universities because one of the big things for me was getting into college, and being able to be one of the individuals in my family to be able to get through college and get a degree was something I never thought possible as a kid. So um, I actually got into all the colleges I applied to. I applied to about 13 universities and then ended up deciding to go to Seton Hall University because I wanted to be a sport management major. I wanted that to be my background, and I thought that was going to be what I wanted to do ultimately with the rest of my life. And um, if I could suggest anything early on, especially when you're looking at colleges, look at the disability support services. It's a huge thing. There's different names, disability support centers, but it's a place where you are going to have to um, basically tell an individual uh, ba- uh, what your disability is. You're going to have to do that so you can have the services put in place. In school, before college, there is an individual education plan put in, which gives you the ability to have different services focused on IEP and based on what the counselor's suggestions are, along with your parents and the school advisors, and etc. and so forth. But IEP goes away in college, and then it's focused on reasonable accommodations. And reasonable accommodations are basically focused on the student self advocating, along with the parents if the student chooses. This was one of the big things for me to understand because I didn't understand that I wasn't going to have an IEP anymore until I went in for my first meeting with the DSS counselor during my orientation freshman year. And it was a huge surprise, a huge shock. Um, Self advocating was still something very new to me. And I had to go through the ringer to get services. I had to tell them I did have a disability, and then I would have to sit down with them every single year and focus on what I thought I needed along with what was suggested I needed based on my disability. And I got a few things. I got extended time on tests. I got to take my exams in a room all to myself, so I would have the best ability to focus with no interruptions. I would have a recorder and a note taker in all my classes, so I wouldn't have to focus. I could just listen in all of my lectures, and those were some of the main things. I think ultimately Seton Hall wasn't the best school out of the 13 that I applied to for services, but I think I learned early on that it wasn't. I kind of had a feeling it wasn't compared to some of the other schools, but I feel like I had to go up to the challenge because I knew what I wanted out of life. I knew what I wanted out of my college experience, and that was to become a sport, to get my degree in sport management. So, regardless of what services were available, I knew that I wanted to go through this. So, ultimately, I was able to get the services to really focus on my 4 years. There were a lot of other difficulties in school in regards to I was living at the away from home for the first time. This was a huge shocker for me in regards to all the different changes I had to go through. Not being able to it was a lot about being independent. It was not about having uh, the safety net of having your parents there for you anymore, and it was tough. It was when I first was realizing I was an adult, that I was a young adult, and that I was growing up. I, I'm the biggest kid at heart, and I just didn't see myself ever not being a kid. Like being an adult was something I just didn't understand. It it was tough. It's definitely tough. I mean, I've never had an easy time with change, but being an adult, having to get your own food, having to clean up, having to do all those things put into place was it was different. It was it was different, and it was something I wasn't ready for at the time. But I can honestly say that going away to a school that was only 20 minutes away from my house did give me a little bit of support. Um, I was living in the dorms. I lived in the dorms all 4 years, and then I got an apartment with some of my friends in grad school. And it was interesting living alone. One of the accommodations I was able to get, and that you should check when you're going into disability, if you're thinking about living in dorms for the first time, is I was able to get accommodation for a single room, which ultimately I think helped me because I was able to have a little oasis, a little place where I could just be me, be myself, and just go to if I had any problems and any stress during the day, which I think was huge. And I definitely recommend it to anyone. Um, and ultimately, college was the best 4 years of my life. But also, it just taught me to become a self advocate. And I think being a self advocate, focusing on my services and focusing on getting good grades and being a young adult really ultimately led me to becoming a disability advocate, to focus on autism awareness, spreading autism awareness, because I knew our school really didn't have that many things put into place. I started my own organization called Student Disability Awareness. Um, Basically, within the first few months of school, I knew I wanted to have an organization that would focus on disability awareness for all the kids at that school. And even though it was only a small chunk of kids with learning disabilities and physical disabilities at the school, I just knew that it was a challenge I wanted to take on ultimately for a better day for the future Kerry Magras, for the future generations of kids going through this school, to have things put into place where they knew that they had someone there for them. I think that was a huge thing I wanted because I didn't know necessarily if I thought I had that when I was first going into Seton Hall. But college is definitely different from any other experience you're ever going to get. It's when you find yourself, I think, truly. But you keep finding yourself as you get older. Um, but for me, just being an advocate for myself early on really led to me really wanting to spread awareness, not only for college universities, but for the world, for my work. When I became a junior at Seton Hall, I started working with Autism Speaks. I started advocating, started going to walk nails for Autism Speaks, and really just getting my word out there to try to help others and lead to a hopefully better day. And I keep doing this, keep doing that till this day. So, college, just focus on getting the services you need, making sure that you are really, really focusing on having some me time, and also focus on structure. Focus on the fact that time management is a huge thing. Focus on making sure you don't spread yourself too thin, and just really enjoy yourself. It's a great 4 years. Focus on the fact that you're also going to have to do a lot of self advocacy for yourself, but that's also going to help build your confidence. And also focus on having fun, social skills, focus on social interaction, focus on knowing individuals who have similar interests to you and being able to go out there and really, really just be in a place where you feel the most comfortable with the people you feel most comfortable with. It seems like simple stuff. Sometimes we forget though, with so many distractions going on, especially in college, because there are a lot of distractions. But if you keep yourself level-minded, if you keep asking questions to everyone involved, from disability support to your professors, it really can be a successful time if you let it. It's all just about being confident and just getting yourself out there. So that's my recommendations and thoughts. And if you guys have any questions or suggestions, please let me know. Always willing to listen. So thanks guys for watching.